Once upon a time, there was a king. His son had a very bad temper and poor manners. The king, his advisors, and many important people tried to show the prince how his bad behavior looked to others. They told him that his ill manners and wicked ways created a bad impression on everyone. Despite their wise advice, the prince refused to listen and continued behaving badly. One day, the prince saw a royal servant cleaning the floor slowly.
"Why are you so slow?"
The prince shouted.
"Hurry up, or you will be punished."
The servant nervously replied,
I'm doing my best. But it's a large area.
The prince snapped.
"No excuses. Finish quickly."
Later that day, the king called his son.
I noticed how you spoke to the servant. Be patient and polite with everyone.
The prince asked.
"Why should I be patient?"
The king replied.
You treat people with kindness. They will respect you in return.
One morning, the prince visited the city on a royal elephant. He saw a man fixing a broken cart in the street and shouted,
"Why are you causing a delay? Move your cart quickly."
The man replied,
I'm trying my best, but I don't have the right tools.
The prince snapped.
"Hurry up, or you will face punishment."
The crowd watched in silence. They were uneasy at the prince's harshness. The news of the prince's misbehavior quickly reached the king. He was deeply worried, but he felt helpless to change his son's behavior. One day, the king spotted a sage walking near the palace. He was holding an alms bowl. The king saw the sage's bright, glowing face, and he was impressed by his confident way of walking. The sage's walk showed he was confident and had great knowledge. The king instructed one of his ministers to bring the sage to court. The sage came to the king's court. He was received with great honor by the king and his courtiers. When the king came to know that the sage was trying to find a good dwelling place for himself, he offered him a hermitage in his palace. The sage accepted the offer of the king and started living in the hermitage. One day, the king said to the sage,
You would have probably come to know by now that my son is very ill-tempered and bad-mannered. The people of my kingdom call him an unworthy prince. They don't want him to succeed me as king.
Then the king discussed other matters of his kingdom. with the sage and left his son under his direct care and guidance with confidence that the sage would definitely ameliorate the prince and bring a positive reform in him. The next day, the sage took the prince for a walk through the garden of the palace. Pointing to a tiny plant, the sage said to the prince,
"Eat a leaf of this plant, and tell me how it tastes."
The moment the prince tasted the leaf, he immediately spat it on the ground.
It seems to be a poisonous seedling. If it is allowed to grow into a big tree, it may prove dangerous for the health of many people.
The prince pulled the tiny plant out of the ground and tore it to pieces. Then the sage picked up the torn and mutilated plant and said to the prince,
"As you have reacted in the case of this plant, the people of your kingdom may react in the same manner with you, because they think you are a wicked prince. They may not allow you to rule the kingdom, and may send you to exile. So it is much better that you mend your ways."
The prince understood the message of the sage. From that day onwards, he tried to grow humble and kind-hearted. The king was pleased and extremely happy to see such a big change in his son. He thanked the sage and expressed his gratitude. Moral: kindness and good behavior are important to gain others' respect and acceptance.